All right, thank you, Jeremy, for that introduction. We're going to be going over barn management this evening. Um, it's hard to get into barns sometimes, and I'm going to show you how to enter into them, the right questions to ask, and how to spend time in barns and get a lot of good work done. First off, my name is Tim Shannon. I'm a certified journeyman farrier working in Southern California since 1987. I got my journeyman in '94, and I'm currently an AFA tester, clinician, and speaker. And in about 2000, I started working on barns. I have a couple 3-day event barns, one with about 16, another about 25 horses that show from beginner novice all the way to Olympic level. A couple endurance barns competing from limited distance up to international FEI races. Dressage barn with about 30 head that just compete on the local level. Hunter jumper barn on the local circuit out here has about 12 to 16 horses, and medieval times we have about 30 head there, and they do 40 to 50 shows a month. They're quite busy. Actually, probably one of my busiest barns, the amount of work that those horses do. And I also spent 10 years at Disney working on the heavy horses. At one point, we had about 35 heavies working on Main Street. But it's been kind of an evolution since the year 2000. I'm a farrier and have been working a lot of places, and things got a little monotonous. So I wanted to start investing into barns and putting my time into barns and find something a little more challenging in my work. So what we're going to cover tonight is why barns, what barns we want to work with. Let's back up. The first call, what happens when we get the first call or first contact, our first visit to the barn, how to handle that. And let's finally get under a horse, how we deal with the issues we see on the horse, and then general issues about working around a barn. And then finally, we're going to go over why we lose barns, when to quit a barn. It works both ways. We can get fired and we can not want to work there ourselves. And then we'll wrap it all up. So why barns? The upside is you have a nice regular stop on your schedule. Depends on the amount of horses and the way you schedule them, but you can be a regular weekly, bi-weekly, monthly stop. You get to know your horses better. You get to work on the same horses long term. So you really get to learn the dynamics of shoeing and how horses respond to what you do when you see them over periods of years. You get to know your clients better, and it makes it better for you to meet their needs. And you get to pick and choose. You can pick and choose, work in a discipline you like, that you like to be around, the people you like to be around, and makes our job much more enjoyable. The downsides, if you lose a barn, you can lose a big chunk of income at one time. It could be a big hole in your schedule. And still, there are times that barns can get monotonous. If it's a smaller barn and they don't have a lot of horses in and out, and you get the horses figured out, you're going and you're doing the same horses again, and that can be kind of boring. And if there's not a lot of people around and you don't have that interaction, that can kind of get a little tiring. And it can be time consuming. You really have to commit when you work, especially in training barns. These people are investing a lot of time into their horses and into their training, and you need to really step up and be up to that task as well. So let's start with what types of barns. You can get a discipline-specific barn, something you like to be around. Maybe it's something you've ridden before, you know something about. It really helps a lot if you can speak the language of the barn. If it's jumpers, if it's going to be endurance horses, dressage, or reining horses, you need to know the language and what goes on around the showing. It could be a boarding type facility where you're the farrier for all the boarders. It can be a small ranch, 12 to 15, or it could be a couple hundred, where you're just doing a portion of the barn. But it could be a boarding type facility, and you'd probably be dealing with a manager there instead of training issues. You're going to want to look at where is it, how far away is it, how easy is it for you to service and keep on the schedule. Horses are going to lose shoes, questions are going to come up, and you need to be available for that. And so you need to have it close. Determine the size, and then again the scheduling. Does it fit in where some of your other horses are? Do you want to open up a new area? So figure out what the scheduling is. Okay, first call and contact. We usually meet new customers either by a phone call or we're going to be at a barn and somebody sees us. This happens more in boarding stables. They'll see our work and say, hey, how would you like to do our horses? And it can blossom into something. So there's a couple different ways. So have a discipline preference ahead of time before you get your call. It's a good idea to set up a profile of what your customer profile is. Who are the people you want to work for, and what are the kind of horses that you want to work with? Have that in mind before you take the call. You're not just going to take everything on the planet because you know your own skill set, you know what you're good at, and you need to work in those areas. You'll present better and you'll get better at it. I work really well in 2 or 3 different disciplines, and I cultivate those disciplines and do them well. So consequently, if someone has a reining horse or a working cow horse and calls up, I'm not going to take that because that's not in my skill set. I'm going to go ahead and already have a referral list I have that I can move these clients off to people I trust and give a good reputation, and I can trust them. They have a good reputation. Make sure people that you use for referrals are good and you vetted them, you know their work in your own right, because if you just pull a name out of a book and hand it to somebody and you don't know, that could come back to bite you. You need to vet your own references. If they ask price on your first call, defer to your first visit. It's better not to talk price on the phone. You don't have enough information to really quote a price at a barn. And then, like I said, barn evolution. It might be a training barn. There's training barns I work at where I'll do 90% of the horses and another 10% somebody else does. And it could be a situation you're the guy doing the 10% and your work's looking pretty shiny and you're making good relationships with the people and they might want to make a change. Well, you're there. So that's just, it kind of evolves into a larger show barn, and that's another way to get into a barn. But above all, be professional on the first contact. Okay, so questions for us to ask. After the person's going to be asking you a question, they're going to want to know price. Like I said, defer. There's not a lot you can answer on the phone. They might have questions about their horse and how you would shoe a certain way. You haven't seen the horse yet. You don't know. You can't really answer that question truthfully. One of the mistakes on that first call is to just answer the phone, say, yes, I'll come do your horse. This is my price, and make an appointment. You don't have enough information. You're setting yourself up for failure, and you're not presenting yourself as a professional. So it's all these little things that help you build a solid reputation in the barn. So questions we need to ask. Why are you looking for another farrier? There's going to be a reason they're quitting, and it's good to know that information. These reasons could be valid. They could not be valid. You don't know. You'll have to see the horses to confirm some of that later. But you do need to know, and you can learn something about the people. Are they going to tell you the whole story or not? So do ask that question. Ask what the discipline is, of course, so you know if it's even a barn that you're going to be able to work at and horses that you're going to work on. How many horses do they have? If you have a pretty full book already, it's going to be hard to take on a barn of 50 horses. So you need to know how many horses are to see if this is something you can do. Ask them if they show, or is it just a training barn, or trail rides? How often do they ride? You need to know how often they're working, because it's a maintenance thing. It might adjust your schedule, the frequency you're going to be there. So this all gives you an idea of what it's going to take to maintain the account, and you need to get these questions answered right away. Again, ask who the last farrier was, and are you going to be working with a trainer, a barn manager, possibly the owner of the horses? Maybe the owner has a barn of 10 or 12 or 15 of their own horses, and you're working with the owner. But find out who that person is. Who's the decision maker? Who's the point person? And when it comes to problem solving later, these are the people you need to know so you can get through the issues. So find out who these people are. So is it a go? Have they answered these questions satisfactorily? Is it the right size for you? Is it the right discipline? Is it close enough? Is it sounds like something you can manage? Then set up an appointment. You need to see if this is going to be a match. What we set up when we go to barns is we're setting up a relationship, just like backyard horses, but we're setting up a relationship, and we need to meet them in person. So set a time to get there. Check your references if it's appropriate, if you know the people or not. The previous farrier might be someone that's easy for you to talk to. It might be someone that's not easy to talk to. So check them if you can. If we know the vet now, go ahead and give the vet a call and find out a little bit about the barn, what kind of lamenesses they have, and how they are to work with. You do need to get out and see the barn in person, and you need to see if your skill set is going to match what they need, if you have the skills to handle what they have there after you put your eyes on, and see if the people are trainers, owners, are the type that you can work with. And when you set this appointment to go out, you're not committing to doing any shoeing. Let them know it's just a feel out to see if what I tell people is I need to come out and see your horses and talk and see if I can bring my skill set to your program and can complement your program and help you folks do better. But I always leave time out for one just in case. You never know. A lot of times when barns are changing, they have one horse in mind they need to get done right away. So I'll leave a little extra time just in case that happens. Okay, our first visit. We've made the appointment. We got a lot of background. Arrive on time, clean, ready to go. Don't set up your truck right away because you're not there to be shoeing. Bring a notepad. You're going to be taking notes. And then start confirming the details of the call. If these are Arab show horses, are they set up to be Arab show horses? What are the stall conditions? Look at the conditions of the horses. Look at the conditions of the barn. Do the horses look healthy? Do they have like a grain schedule? Do they have a training schedule set up? Is it an organized place? It's a lot easier to work in organized places and stay on top of things and stay professional when things are organized. You know how the workflow goes. Find out who the point person again is. Hopefully you can meet them there, and that's the person that's showing you around. Find out how the horses are to work on. Have them maybe grab a couple and bring them out so you can take a look at the shoeing that's already on the horses, and when they do that, note how they grab the horses, note how they are around the horses, note how the horses react to them, and you'll learn a lot about the horse handling skills of the trainer or the person you're dealing with, and you'll learn a little bit about the horses. When you're working there, is there going to be a handler to get the horses for you and bring them back? Or are you going to be fetching the horses and bringing them back? That's quite time consuming. I usually take my breaks between horses when they're getting changed out. That's when I get something to drink, maybe a snack, work on the schedule, return some text messages or calls that I need to work on. But that's our break between horses. So it's good to have somebody to get that for you. Have the point person show you around. Walk and talk, observe and ask questions about the horses and what they do while you're there. Look at your working conditions. This is very important. This is where you're going to be living when you go there. Is the cross ties or tie rail, whatever you prefer. I prefer cross ties myself. A nice big area, a nice place to sweep stuff. Do you need power? It'd be nice to be able to plug in and have power and not do everything by hand. Is there shade? In Southern California, it's an important thing. We have a lot of sun here. We have a drought going on now. We don't get any rain or clouds, and we really do need to have some shade to work around. Is it easy to clean up? Where's the water, restrooms? Just the logistics of your working conditions. It doesn't make sense to volunteer to go on a spot and they send you over to a tree that's in a mud hole where they've been shoeing for 20 years and the horse's front end is sitting a foot lower than the hind end. You're not going to be able to do a good job, and you need to keep yourself professional. And if they're putting up obstacles for you to do a good job, you need to take those obstacles away. So these are all requirements that I need before I can take on a stop. So another reason for going out and meeting with the people before you agree to do a horse. All right. So is it a go? Are the working conditions acceptable? Does the barn look good? Does it look like you want to work here? You're getting along with the person? Are you know, joking around? Is everything relaxed? And that, okay, let's set some ground rules. This is where we set expectations, and expectations is a big theme in this. We have to have mutual expectations. We have to look at something, see the same thing, expect the same thing, to get through these barns and to establish a long working relationship. We're going to be looking at shoeing decisions, who makes the shoeing decisions, how the scheduling works, how the billing works. I do a lot of email billing and credit card just to keep things going smooth. Know the point person and the way the information flows around the barn. I prefer to give all my information. I take notes while I'm working, and when I get done, I'm going to go over those notes with the trainer or the owner, whoever the point person is, so they know. I'm not going to let the handlers know, hey, this horse has thrush in the left hind, make sure you treat it with something. And that's not enough for me. I have to put eye to eye with the trainer and let them know what's going on. And in some barns, it's even going to be in writing to make sure the information gets to them and I know it's given to them. Find out where their show schedule is and learn how to adhere to that and work around that. And then this one horse thing again, if it's a go and you've decided you want to work there, say, okay, yeah, you did have that one horse, and you know what, maybe I can check my schedule and see if I can fit that one in, because it always seems like there's one. It's either overdue and they got a show this weekend, or it has some lameness issue they'd really like to get ahead of. So go ahead, and that extra hour and a half you threw in on this appointment that they didn't know about, you're going to go ahead and shoe this horse. And I'll tell you what, we all know one good shoeing, it works a lot better than any business card. This horse is going to be walking around the barn until the next appointments come in, and everybody's going to be seeing it. So it is good to be able to go ahead and take time out and get at least one done. So the shoeing decisions. Notice I haven't asked how they want their horse shod yet. This is by design. I want to build a foundation of trust and professionalism first, and get that taken care of. This is going to be a collaborative effort with the professional, me making the decisions. And this is because now I've seen the horses, now I know their needs, now I know the skill set matches. So I've decided to go ahead and take this on. Now I'll start listening to their input and what they have. I'm not discounting anything they say. The owner has an incredible amount of information to bring to the discussion. They know how the horse rides, they know what they're feeling, and when I make changes, they're going to feel something. So I need that information. But ultimately, I'm going to be making the decision on how the horse gets shod in normal day-to-day shoeing. So once I've seen these horses and know how they work, know what their needs are, I'm going to go ahead and set up my shoeing protocols. And one reason for that is I know I can stand behind my decisions. I know how I shoe, I know why I shoe, I know what the feeder look like, I know why I made those decisions at the time to shoe the horse that particular way. I might shoe a horse 3 different ways, 3 different cycles in a row. It depends on the needs of that horse at the time and what that horse is going to be doing and how that foot is going to be growing over the next 6 weeks. So it's going to change a lot. And when I do make changes, I'm going to be letting the point person know. They're going to know why the changes are made and when I'm doing them. It's good. Another reason to let them know is I believe an educated client is going to be a better client for me. They're going to be looking for things, and they're going to give me feedback and information that's going to allow me to do my job better. So by coming in, starting from the phone call, not quoting a price, and making sure this is what the type of work that I know how to do, and setting up the appointment and meeting with the people, checking the background, making sure you have a good place to work. All these things set up professionalism, and people will start to trust you because you're acting like a professional. You have the walk and talk of a professional. So when it comes to the shoeing protocols, this part usually goes well. We've already established some of that, and even I've been in situations where they're not quite sure, they haven't heard of a protocol I'm using, it doesn't sound right to them. They'll usually let it go ahead and happen, and then they get to learn more, and the horse gets to benefit. So miscellaneous details, scheduling. I have a schedule board like this in all my barns. It's just so we have transparency. We have all the horses. We have when they were shod last, when they're due again, and comments. And that comment section is for both myself and the point person. In case they, something happens one day and a horse rides a little different, they can get it down there in case they forget about it when I come back. I can look at there, I can answer questions, I can see this board when I come into the barn, see who's due, and then get a hold of the point person and deal with any issues before I even get under a horse. Also, if there's any changes they need, like if a horse needs to be drilled and tapped for studs, or if an endurance horse is heading to a race that's going to need pads, or there's going to be some, we're going to need some traction, some boring put on for something. And medieval times, they do the rose parade every year. We always got to start going through borium on certain horses, and that group changes all the time, so we need to know who gets what. So this board I always keep next to the riding board for the trainer, where she chronicles all the horses she's riding every day and what they go through, and it's also next to the calendar for the show season. The show schedule is very important. I keep it in my calendar. Beginning of the year, I calendar the whole year on the shows, so I know when they are. And the reason this is important is because every horse has a performance window in their shoeing cycle, and you need to know what that is. I have some thoroughbreds, kind of flat-footed. Their feet need to be collected up quite often. They don't get a lot of length, but they start to spread out. So I got some on a 4- and 5-week schedule. And when I shoe them, it's going to be close. I'm always in the margin. So the horses, these couple, don't perform well the first week after shoeing. But the second, third, and fourth, they're awesome. By the fifth, they're starting to spread out again and not doing well. So their performance window is at about 2 to 4 weeks. And I need to know that for when I'm setting up the schedule for the shows. Some horses, I can shoe them. They can go out and compete. I can shoe them in the morning, they can compete in the afternoon, and 6 weeks later, they're still good to go. Their feet don't spread out as much. They don't lose their angles. They get long, but the biomechanics stay in pretty good, and they can perform. So you need to know your performance windows in terms of scheduling and scheduling for shows, endurance races, whatever. The horses will compete better. You come out looking better, and everything goes smoother. Billing, again, this needs to be settled before you start, before you get under a horse, how that's going to be handled. For me, it's handled different ways in different barns. I do mostly billing, like I said, by email, and I have credit cards on file I take care of. And then there's one barn I go at. The barn manager takes care of everything, collects from everybody, and I get one check when I leave every day. Works fine. Everything's worked fine. Everybody's happy. So you can set up whatever situation you want, as long as it's acceptable to you and your point person, and everybody's happy, it'll work. Now you have to be committed. So we've gone through all these details, and we're ready to start getting under a horse. But once you've decided to take this on, you need to be committed to the program. A lot of these trainers work very hard at what they do, and they have schedules, tight schedules. And if we got a big show coming up, 6 months away, we're actually short timing it if we have to make any changes. There's only a few shoeing cycles left to make much changes, so you really got to think long term. So you got to be ahead of these things when shows come up. For me, I'm always available when they're in my area to show up. I'll go to the shows and hang out, make sure everything's going well. If a horse loses a shoe, I'm just about always there within 24 hours to get that shoe put back on, because that's training time they're down. And on endurance horses, that's big. They got to keep their cardio up, along with the eventers also. They have to really keep their cardio up, and they lose a few days off of that, and it can back them up. Plus the foot gets torn up. The more the foot gets torn up, the less likely I am to get a really good shoe on, and then we get a cycle of shoes coming off because I can't nail up into a good strong foot. So you got to be committed to these barns. They're committed. You need to commit just as much and buy into the process. Okay, let's shoe a horse. We've got all the ground rules set. We've got the expectations set. We've determined how we're going to shoe most of these horses. And you start getting under them. When you see good work, you know, sometimes you're taking over a place and things are pretty bad. Sometimes they're pretty good. I took over a barn. The guy had retired after 20 years, and they loved this guy, and he did a good job. And it was really easy to slide in there. And there were a couple things I did change, but I'll tell you what, there was a lot of good work there, and I praised it all while I was there. When I work at barns and people come from out of state and send horses in, and I've never seen this horse before, and a horse comes in, it's got a really nice shoe job, somehow I try and get a hold of the owner and previous farrier, give them a call. Hey, this is a great job. You guys are doing good work in, you know, wherever they're coming from, Canada, back east. But you got to send the praises down the line. A lot of times, farriers, we're just at the bottom end and not a lot of compliments head our way, so we need to kind of take care of our own. And you see good work, call that farrier up and let him know. And it's also a good way to you know, make new connections with other farriers. And I've met farriers all over the world. I got a friend in Atlanta that we're good friends, and I was out there years ago to see some of his work, and you know, you just never know how these things are going to end up. So when you see changes that need to be made, recommend the changes, and go ahead and follow through. Again, by the protocols before, we're going to talk to the people, but let them know what we need to institute to make the changes at the time. Recommend a vet when needed. You should know when you need backup from a vet or films. You know, you see some issue and you could get some balanced radiographs, so you could actually shoe this horse better. There's, you know, maybe our normal landmarks are obscured by a distortion in the foot, or you see some angular deformities or rotational deformities in the fetlock. And it would really be better if you got a good look at the way the bones are in there. Plus, you get this stuff documented, and the owners see you get a professional relationship going with the vet, and you can do much better for these horses. Note lamenesses and conformational issues, like I was saying, as you're going through. This is, again, going back to getting the expectations correct. When you see these lamenesses, you know, of course, we'll address those and see what's going on, but the bigger problem I've seen is conformational issues, horses that are toed in or are fetlock valgus and or fetlock varus, and they have joints that aren't quite symmetrical. People don't notice that, and then when we get lameness issues coming up and we get radiographs and we start putting a really critical eye on the horses and how they move, I've had plenty of owners say, well, I've never seen that before. Well, what did you do? And it doesn't have anything to do with what I've done. It's what they haven't seen before. So I do make a lot of notes on what a horse's conformation is, what they look like, if there's any lamenesses going on, if I see a history of issues in the hoof capsules. I try and get that documented. I have a farrier program. I document these things. I take pictures. I get reports from vets, and they get put into the horse's file, so I can always refer to these things. Quotes, get quotes when customers or trainers are letting you know how a horse is moving, what they're feeling with that, different shoeings. Make sure you note that. You might need to come back to it later when you're problem solving. So, well, when we had this particular shoeing, this is what you noticed the way the horse rode. Maybe we should go back to something else that was working. Hooves and horses, as they move and grow in barns, as you see them over the years, there's evolutions of how they move, and you got to keep up, and sometimes you need to revisit old ways of shoeing. And also keep track of your lost shoes. This gets blown out of proportion a lot of times. I've had barns where I might have lost 2 shoes in a year and they thought I lost 10, or I've lost 10 and they thought, yeah, I didn't lose any. So keep track of that. It can be helpful when to jar people's memories on how how the shoeing was going. Okay, problem solving. We have a lameness. We have an issue. How are we going to get through this? This is where I'll initiate the team concept if it's not already in place. And that's between the farrier, vet, and trainer, the professionals, or hopefully the professionals. If it's a point person and owner, not quite a professional, but if they're the decision maker, they need to be in the process. So we got to do problem solving. If we need to get radiographs or do a lameness evaluation and figure out what's going on with the horse, we'll go through that. And then we got to come up with a treatment plan or a shoeing plan, and it'll be discussed between the vet and myself and the owner with what would work best for this horse. And we usually very often come up to a consensus pretty easily, but sometimes we'll disagree. So somebody's going to have to give somewhere, and we're going to have to come up to a plan. So identify what it's going to be, and if it's my choice, if it was my choice, it's all good. That's easy to get through. That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I'm going to do. But if it turns out not to be what my thought was, and we come up with a different plan, I have to fully commit to that plan as if it was my own. And then we also have to have a plan B and a plan C. And when you have these second plans, you need to identify when to use that. So let's say we're shoeing a horse that has some heel soreness, and the vet wants a real soft pad on it. And it's already got some crushed heels. And I want a little firmer pad because I think they're just going to crush more with a soft pad. The owner thinks soft pad sounds good. Let's go with that. So we're going to go with the soft pad. So my plan B is going to be maybe a little firmer pad and maybe some sole support in there, so we can take some of the load off of the heels and let them get stronger. So what we're going to look for is the heels crushing more, and maybe the softer pads being dug out because they're being overloaded in the heel area. So we have some identifiers. If we start seeing those things, then we're going to switch to plan B. And if you get all that laid out ahead of time before you put hands on the horse and apply any of this, then everybody knows where we're going. Once something isn't working, we know what we're moving to next. And everybody's amenable to it, and things work much smoother. So again, buy into this plan. If we've decided to do that soft shoeing, and I have an assistant with me, and I say, okay, we're doing the soft pad, we're walking down back to the horse, I'm not saying, oh man, I wish I would have done it my way, that's what we should do, and talking to the groom says, I don't know why your trainer wants to do this. It's the wrong thing to do. None of that can be said. None of that can be said. You say, yeah, we're doing a wedge pad, we're doing a soft, and here's why. Soft is going to give some comfort to those back heels. We've talked about it. We think this is the best plan right now, and that's what we're going to go with. So you have to commit to it. And buy-in means taking responsibility. If we buy into somebody else's plan, or if I buy into my own plan, I'm taking responsibility for it. I got to own it. And it's just another part of being very professional, and you become more trustworthy that way. All right. Okay, we've got a horse done. We've got our horses done however many we're doing that day. We've gone through problem solving on some lameness issues. A horse has some sore heels, so we've got that straightened out. So we're going to update the schedule. We're going to go back to that board. We're going to move the dates and when they're going to be due next. Anything, if one has thrush, I'm going to write on there, left hind on Gypsy needs some thrush buster 3 times a week. I'll recheck when I'm here next week. See how the good horses are doing. Talking to the trainer. This horse has been doing real good. How's the training going? Excelling. Keep this relationship going with your point person. And then check on the show schedule. Find out who's going to the shows when. This always changes. Horses get sore and they get pulled. Maybe somebody doesn't have money to get going. That horse gets pulled and they move another one up. And this is where it can get complicated when you're talking about when the optimum time a horse's his competitive window in the shoeing. If they change something up right away, that can be hard to get around sometimes. And they might not be performing on their best feet. So you have to make adjustments. If a horse is maybe a little early, do you go ahead and sneak a shoe job on? Is this a horse that can compete in 1 week or not? So sometimes they might have to go long. Sometimes you might just have to tighten things up. But those are decisions you're going to have to make, and it's best to find out as soon as you can, as soon as they make changes. Update the schedule. Okay. General issues, other farriers. You need to find other farriers that can help you. They have the skill set to cover when you're not there. They can help you with lost shoes. And when you're not in the area, I have an area I work on Monday that's about 50 miles from the area I work on Tuesday and Wednesday, which is about 35, 40 miles from the area I work on Thursday. So it's helpful if I get a call from my Thursday client on Monday if I know someone in the area that can help me out and get into that barn. Farriers also, if you're in one of these evolving barns, boarding situation or training situation, and there's other farriers that work there, you can learn background issues about the barn, learn more about the barn, the dynamics of the barn. Maybe they're going through farriers every 3 months or 4 cycles on the horses. Maybe there's things you need to find out. Maybe they're great to work for, and the other farrier had communication issues. There's all kinds of reasons we lose clients, but you can get that background information from other farriers in the area. And they also bring other skill sets to bear, and that's really quite helpful. The way I learned to do crack repair, I had a horse with a chronic crack that I was having trouble. I can usually get around cracks, get them going. I had one that was really bad, so I found a vet and that was really good at cracks and suturing and putting a grand circuit and hoof repair material on there. And she came in, showed me a couple times, and it was great. I developed another skill set from there. And also there can be skill sets you need to refer to. In the endurance world, I do shoeing, I do steel, I nail on stuff, but I don't do the glue stuff. I don't have enough endurance horses that want to have glue-ons and have boots glued on for me to get my skill set up to speed so I can be confident in the shoeing. So those get referred to other farriers that are better at that. So I'll still trim the horses, but they go off to the other farrier who is a professional at booting and glue-ons, and they take care of that. I've never really lost a client this way. One professional referring to another professional to do some outside work is usually seen as very professional, and it's usually not seen as an exit point for an owner to say, well, if you can't do that, I'm getting that guy. Usually it's seen as professional, and most of the time I've noticed that barns and owners and trainers like it when I'm there, but I also have people I can refer to and consult with and come in and help me at times. They really do appreciate that. More general issues, vets, they can help with client history. You're going to talk to them before you go to the barn. You can learn more about the client. They can give more information to an issue. And anytime you get more information, you're going to make better decisions, and it's going to benefit the horse. So get good working relationships with vets. Like I said earlier, if you don't know them already, and first chance you get at a barn, you find out who their vet is, you give them a call and let them know what's going on. If one comes in to see one of your horses in your barn while you're not there and it's related to something you do, give them a call. Say, hey, I heard you were at the barn the other day. What did you see on Gypsy? What was going on with that horse? Should we make any changes now? Is this something we need to watch and see? And go on. But keep the relationship going by making the phone calls. And that's a big asset in the team concept. I've found most vets do like to work together with farriers, professional farriers. When they go to school, they're brought up roundtabling a lot of issues and going into meetings with 5 or 6 different vets, giving their ideas and talking about issues and going different directions. So that concept is not new to vets. They just need a professional in the team to help them with that. And that's what we're going to be. And they're a big part of the problem solving. To get the vets, give you information for you to excel, you can give them information for them to excel, and it works out better for the horse. Difficult horses. What are we going to do with those? This needs to usually be talked about in the beginning. You need to know if they have a handler for you to help you out. If they could administer drugs. I never administer drugs. I'm not a vet. That's not what I do. The horse either needs to be trained by them, or they can have a vet come out and give drugs, or have a handler. But I'm not a trainer. I'm a farrier. I've trained in the past, but it's not my job to make a horse stand still and stand well. And you need a horse to stand still and stand well. The more the horse moves, the more it's going to compromise how well you can work on a horse. And the people that see your shoeing a week later don't know how that horse acted. All they know is you're the one that shod that horse. And if all you were doing was trying to get nails in and not get yourself hurt and not paying attention to conformation or where that shoe is or how the horse is shod, that's going to show, and that's going to be your reputation. And also, discipline can be misunderstood. I can discipline plenty of horses, and I have in the past. But you get a layman or someone that's not really educated in disciplining horses or training horses, and they see you working over a horse. While it might be completely appropriate, it might not be in their eyes, and they're not going to talk to you about it. They're just going to tell other people they saw so-and-so hurting a horse or whooping on a horse or that. So you need to watch what you're doing. Also, one bad horse can end a career. You get stomped on once, or break an ankle, or that your career is done. You're out. And one horse is not worth that. Not worth that ever. And again, it's a ding to your reputation. You also get a reputation of hurting horses, even if it's misunderstood. Then people think, oh, he can handle rough horses. We'll start giving him rough horses, and that doesn't help either. That's not what we're looking for. Also, control your message. Rumor control in barns. About lost shoes, you need to know who has the trainer's ear. You need to keep making sure your expectations are aligned. What you can do to best help this horse with your shoeing and its conformation for its specific task. Is that within the horse's skill set? The trainer needs to understand that. The owners need to understand that. Not every horse has a skill set for everything. You got to be professional all the time. And get the whole story. I've had a situation where I had a horse, she wanted me to square the toes behind, and this horse already had a pretty short foot behind, but she thought it wasn't moving right, needed square toes, and it needed enough purchase back there to keep its forward movement, but it was off on the right hind and intermittent, and she thought it was square toes. She took the horse to a vet, did a workup, a trailer in, vet I know, very professional vet, very good lameness vet, very good diagnostician. And she took the horse there, called me up and said, yeah, the vet said you need to put square toes on this horse, it'll be fine. Before I got out there, I was by that vet's office and was able to speak to him and got the report from him. And it turned out the little thing she forgot to tell me was the 2.4 centimeter chunk of bone that was in its right stifle. So you need to get the whole story. You need to get these relationships with the vets, and when I have customers tell me what the vet told them, I always follow up with the vet. And again, that's controlling the message, and you need to control your message, and you need, again, to get the information. The more information you have, the better decisions you can make, and the more professional you are. And pay attention to trends. There's a lot of trends in the shoeing. There's trends in riding. There's trends in showing. Make sure you can see through the ones that are helping the horses and ones that are not. Okay, why do we lose barns? First off, let's acknowledge that it'll happen. We all lose barns for a myriad of reasons. Most often it's going to be miscommunications and expectations not met. Our expectations need to be in line with the owner or the trainer or our point person, and for what that horse needs and how it's going to work. When our expectations are not aligned, that's when people really don't want you coming back. They don't like work. Their disagreements are made, and miscommunication starts to happen. We can lose barns over trends. There might be a trend in the industry that is coming around. Judges start to place horses, and they have a certain style of shoeing or something on, and everybody's going to start following that. It happens. And is that really the best thing for the horse? If you don't agree that it's the best thing for the horse, you might end up losing the barn because you're not going to follow the trend. So you need to decide ahead of time if you're going to be the one that follows the trends or does what you believe is best for the horse. Because when you do that, you can always back it up. And then we make mistakes. It happens. You might cut one too close. You might get a medial lateral balance off. Something might happen, and we're going to lose the barn. But that's just, we're human. We're all human. We make mistakes. If you do have a good working relationship with the barn, though, you can usually get through those. They understand mistakes happen. or lack of performance. This can also go into expectations not met. But if your shoeing isn't bringing the performance up to where it needs to be, just on the shoeing end, we can only control so much. And they've decided the reason their horse isn't jumping as high as it needs to is because the way you're shoeing the horses, you might end up losing the barn through no fault of your own. But this is where education and keeping expectations aligned comes in. New management might come in. Let's say you're at a boarding stable, and I've lost barns over this. Management comes in. They might have a farrier they usually use, and that's fine. They come in. I've been that farrier. I've been the farrier where a trainer has moved into a barn, and I'm the farrier for that trainer, and the horses that were there are taken over by the trainer, and I'm the new farrier. So it works both ways. It's not good or bad. It just is, I think. Or the barn takes a new direction. They've decided maybe an Arab endurance barn is going to go into show Arabs, and they need tow weights and packages. Well, I don't do tow weights and packages, so that's not going to happen. And they move a new direction, and that's fine. It happens. Quitting a barn. There's going to be a point where you might want to quit a barn at some point. Again, expectations not being met. You can't keep those in line for whatever reason, whether it's somebody's got the owner's ear, or they're on the internet reading stuff that is generic and not applying to their horse. Maybe it gets dangerous. Maybe they have a horse that's hard to do and they're just expecting you to do it. Or the money stops coming in, or it gets slow. We got to do this for a living. It's a business. You can't get the scheduling right. They start stretching things out. Scheduling to me is just as important as the type of shoe we put on a horse. So you need to keep good control of the schedule. Rumor control, of course. New management, maybe you don't agree with them. New trainer, maybe you don't agree with them and you got to go. But you need to manage your reputation. If it gets to an area where you're not going to be able to keep control of your reputation, you need to get out. So conclusions. The pros, hey, steady work in an unsteady business. It's good to have regular work. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for me is all at the same barns, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You get professional growth because you get to meet new people, new skill sets. When I come up with this way of working with people, I end up aligning myself with people that are also open-minded, like to try things. There's not a lot of blame thrown around, and we all end up growing that way. And it can take you to new places and meet new people. A lot of times these show barns, they travel. You can get out and you can meet other farriers, different parts of the world, open up your world. Con, hey, steady work. It's hard to keep the schedule covered. I do have those barns Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But if I want to take a week vacation, I need someone to work there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Because if that work's not done that day or that Monday, if I don't do those 5 at medieval times on Monday, I'm going to have 10 the next Monday. So I got to keep the schedule. So it can be hard to do that. And let's say you have a barn with low turnover, lack of challenges, your skill set might stagnate. If they're not moving, a boarding stable, let's say that's not moving around, not doing a lot, your skills can stagnate. You're not meeting new farriers with different ideas, trainers, different ideas. And losing a barn can be a big hit on the income. Do you want to sacrifice that much of your schedule, your clientele on big barns that can evaporate? So let's bring it home. I believe with good communication, realistic expectations that are agreed upon, and good problem-solving skills with working this group, you get an increasing skill set for everybody, and being a barn farrier is quite a worthy endeavor. I love doing it. I like the consistency, and I like the people I get to meet and the horses I get to work on. So thanks. I'd like to thank the American Farriers Journal for having this, and Delta Mustad Hoof Care Center for sponsoring. A couple of the vets I work with, Dr. Huth, Dr. Silverman, Dr. McClellan, have all taught me a lot over the years. A lot of them have good problem-solving skills. I've learned a lot about how they work an issue, and a lot of good give and take. Farriers that help me out on those weeks that I want to get out of town. Jason Dahl, Eddie Palacios, and Alex Garcia. Alex rides with me every week, and we get a lot done. And the trainers and owners that have trusted me to their horses and helped me and participate in their journey and my journey, and had the career that I've had the last 28 years. Thank you.
All right, fantastic job, Tim. And everybody, we have a few questions already, but I'll remind you, if you If you have a question about anything Tim talked about, look over on your GoToWebinar control panel. You'll see a section where you can type in a question and send it in privately, and I'll read those off for Tim, and he'll go through all the questions tonight. So, Tim, early on you talked about all the different types of horses that you've worked with over the years. Do you find, among the advice concerning the advice you have tonight, are there differences in the, I guess maybe the behaviors or the personalities of different types of disciplines that you've found over the years that changes how you might manage them slightly different?
Yeah, are you talking about the horses or the people?
The the people in particular.
The people, yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, different disciplines have different types of people in them. And yeah, definitely, we're working on these horses. We're spending a lot of time at these barns. It's nice to have people we like to get along with. Um, so yeah, definitely, you got to find a personality of a barn that meshes with your own personality. I have guys, friends of mine that work in work in cow horse, and it's a different personality. They get along with those people much better than I do. They still put down great work. They're great farriers. It's a personality thing, and not a lot you can do about that. I mean, we're our own personality. I think you're better off finding the type of people you work with and work with them rather than fake it to try and work at a different barn.
Yeah. What advice do you have for acquiring barns?
Um, Go to shows that any discipline that you like. Go to the shows, start meeting the people, talking to the show farrier. A lot of times I've been a show farrier at plenty of these things. If I got farriers come up, I'm telling them everything about the business and how it works and ways they could get in. If we got a chance, we might do some forging or work on some horses and set up ride-alongs. That way they can learn about the business of it. But being around is the best way. A lot of these training barns, they're not going down to the feed store and looking at the bulletin board for cards. They're not going to Craigslist. What they're doing is talking to other people in the business. So you need to be out there. You need to be available. That's part of what I was talking about, the time commitment. There's 4 shows in my area that I go to, 3-day events. Some are 3, some are 4 days. I'm there all 4 or 3 days. Just hanging out. I'm there. I'm available. They know I'm on grounds. It just gives me a presence there. And if you're trying to break in, if you're a presence there, you're meeting people, and you know a farrier that works there that can introduce you around, you'll start to pick up the work.
Okay. And you talked about the barn sometimes can be a shared space. What do you do if you show up at a barn and another farrier is working?
Uh, Personally, I stop and introduce myself. I want to know who they are, what they're working on, how, just get to know them a little bit better. Other farriers I have found are usually assets. If they're working in the same discipline, we can, commiserate our discipline or talk about how we've dealt with issues and keep horses going. But yeah, I think farriers need to work together a lot. And every chance I get, I'm in plenty of barns where I'm, maybe doing, there might be 50, 60 horses, and I'm doing a show barn there that has 20 of them. Well, somebody else's, other farriers are doing the other 30, 40 horses. And I'll see them come in, and as often as I can, yeah, I'll meet up with them and get to know
Yeah. Oh, talking about the previous farrier, do you call the previous farrier the client, and what type of information are you trying to find out from them about the client?
them. Oh, if it's someone I know and that I'm amenable to calling, or if I don't know them at all, I might call them. I'll just ask them, hey, what happened? You're not working there. They gave me a call. What's up? If it's a friend of mine, definitely, I'm calling them and saying, what's up? Because it might be a situation where I might not even want to work there. I might get some background information that, yeah, they're short on money, and they've stiffed me for quite a bit. And the story I got from the trainer is, yeah, he won't show up anymore. So, well, now I know why he won't show up. So, yeah, those are some of the questions I'm going to ask. Just get a little background. But yeah, I do that a lot. And even people that have been let go for whatever reason, I still keep relationships with them.
Okay. you talked about your shoeing protocol, and at the point you consider it. By that point, are you confident that you're going to have the owners buy in what you want to do?
Yes. Yeah. That's by laying all the groundwork. You learn by talking to people if they're trusting what you say, and then it's easier to just throw this stuff out. And I look for the moment, and I give examples of, yeah, I've had a horse like this before, and here's how I shot it, and here's what worked, and here's what it did, and give examples of what I've done that are similar to what their horse is going through or what that discipline is. That's why I think it's important to pick a few disciplines and stick with those, because you really get a vast amount of knowledge and a lot of reference built up. So when you do get new customers, you've probably seen that issue in that horse before somewhere.
Okay. And I have a question here. Josiah, if I'm off on what you're trying to ask, let me know. But Tim, I think something might be helpful. There's another question about tracking your lost shoes. Talk about the system you use for how you record information and sort of manage your business.
Oh, I use, I think it's EDSS, Farrier program. It's on, I use it on an iPad, and I'm allowed to go into each horse's file and take pictures right then of the shoeing, and take notes, and I can import vet reports. Vets will send me reports and send me radiographs. I can import it into the file. So whenever I pull up a horse, I have that horse's whole history and my notes and what the farrier said, or what the vet has said. And on the visit page, there's a whole section for notes, and I can write down what shoes I used and notes, and that's where I'll put in any comments that the owner or trainers made, and that's how I keep track of that.
Okay. And we got a couple more questions here. So if anybody out there has a question they'd like to ask, type it in as soon as possible. Tim, you talked about pricing and how you'd like to defer it to later in the conversation on that first visit because you may not know what you're going up against. Do you
Correct.
still try to establish some sense of what you might charge, just maybe to avoid those sticker shock clients?
Yeah, if they press, I do. But usually by talking to them, I can kind of feel them out if it's a client that's going to have sticker shock or not. But usually I'll give them a roundabout. It's going to be a very large range, and I'll tell them, I can't make these decisions on price until I see your horses and see what I'm dealing with.
Okay. And a question I have here, the minimum before you go out for the first visit, what expectations do you establish that you have for the client and inform them of that?
On the first visit?
Oh, prior to going on that first visit.
Oh, I let them know I'm going to come out, and I want to see their horses, see their facility, see what issues you've been dealing with, see what the shoeing looks like, and see if I have the skills to bring something to help your program. So we can work together to help the program and help the horses excel. But I'm always framing it as a group thing, as a team thing from the beginning.
Okay. And you sort of talked about the need to get out with a lot of these barns if they have lost a shoe to get out there as soon as possible. What do you think is the acceptable amount of time that you let them know when you get out there?
What's the window for me to get there?
Yes, and do you let them know that?
Yes, I'm there within 24 hours, and they kind of know that. It's enough that they've called me up and say, so and so has lost a shoe, but he's not going to be working for the next couple days. You don't have to come right away, because they understand I usually drop everything to get there, and do my best to get there within 24 hours. So it's actually gone the other way, that they know I'm there so fast, and that I'll come late in the day, that they'll let me know you don't have to come right away.